Welcome to Treasury of the Church. My name is Father Perrone. And today we'll be learning the modes of Gregorian chant, specifically the authentic modes. Hope you enjoy it. Welcome to Treasury of the Church, Gregorian chant. Last session we ended with a discussion of the modes. This is a very complicated subject, unfortunately, but I'm going to try to make it as simple as I can. There are 8 modes in the church. A mode is a scale. We are familiar, and I'm repeating a little bit, we're familiar with the C major scale, for example, which is a mode. We call it the major mode, and we have also the minor scale. We have the chromatic scale, and we have the whole tone scale. Those are the ones commonly used in modern music. But chant has its own scales, and they're called modes. There are 8 of them total, but there are 4 principal ones and 4 subsidiary ones. The 4 principal ones are the odd numbers, 1, 3, 5, and 7. And the others, which are, subset of those, are the even numbers. We call the ones that are odd numbers the authentic modes. Authentic modes. The other ones we call plagal modes. Now, the reason for that terminology, plagal, is that the home base, which is we call the final, the piece, the note where the piece will end, home base, the security of the conclusion of the piece, in a plagal mode is in the middle of a scale and not the first note. So, let me go to modern music to explain what I'm talking about, and then I'll go to the modes. Here's our C major scale. C is our bass. So everything I do after that, in conventional music anyway, I can start there, I can do something fancy, and at the end, I'm back to home base. I'm back to C. Now, in the chant, in the authentic modes, the ones that are in the odd numbered modes, that always will happen. You will come back to what we call the final, or the home base note, which is the first note of the scale. In the plagal modes, the dominant, or the home base note, is in the middle of a scale. Now, it sounds very complicated, perhaps, and I hope to make it rather easy. Last day we started with the Dorian mode, the first mode. First mode is called Dorian. And it's on the piano, if we were to write it in modern notation. There's our clef. Here's our D. I'm going to try to avoid solfege names because for many of you that's an extra layer of learning, although that is proper for Gregorian chant. We call this Re and not D, but it becomes too complicated. So if I fill in all the notes from D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, we have an octave. So we start with the D and we conclude over here with the D. From D to D. That is the Dorian mode. That's mode number 1. So the final of this mode is the D. So if I'm going to invent something now in the Dorian mode, and I'm going to harmonize it. I'm adding chords in my left hand, so to speak, in order to give it a tonality to your ears, to give it a certain character, if I will say it that way. So I'm going to make up something now in the Dorian mode. You hear that D is the final. That's where the piece ends. No matter what I do after the beginning, usually it starts on the final and concludes on the final for sure. So that's the Dorian mode. And if you notice, a thing we mentioned last day, the half tones in C major, that is to say without any key signature, without any flats or sharps. The half tones will always be from E to F and from B to C. Yes, I'm using this as an extra line here. All right? So, unlike the major scale, where the half tones are from 3 to 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And you see how they lean, the half step leans to the note that it is proximate to it. When we have the Dorian, our half steps now are moved. They become from 2 to 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So if I put the numbers here, these are numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, of course, is just the octave, which is repetition of 1. So you see that the half steps now in the Dorian are between 2 and 3 and between 6 and 7, whereas in the major scale, they are between 3 and 4 and 7 and 8. This is what creates modality. This is what creates the character of a mode, where those half steps may be. Now, we need to hear a little bit of the Dorian tonality, and I think the best thing to do would be to try to find a piece. If we look into our Chants of the Church book, and we go to a page, if I can find a page. On page 124, you see at the bottom of the page, O salutaris ostia. I'm going to zoom in there. This is a piece that we sing here in church at Benediction of the Blessed Sacrament, occasionally. That is to say, we sing other melodies to this text. And you see there's a translation underneath, which is the nice feature of this book, Chants of the Church. It gives the translation underneath. So, O salutaris ostia, que celi pandis ostium. I want to point out to you now, I think I can do it here as well as on the screen, but since you're all looking at the screen, maybe I'll do it here. The piece ends here. You see the mode is given, is the first mode. And you see here's Do. So the piece begins on La, and there is your final, there is your home base note. However, this piece does not end this piece is an unusual piece because it ends on La, probably a poor example for our purposes. But what I want you to see is the prominence of this note, the Re. So we have now, in the Dorian mode, we have not only the D, but you see there's a lot of activity on the A, on the La. Here's Do, so this is La. And you see it starts off on La, it comes to a cadence on La, and comes to a final cadence on La, even at the Amen. As I said, it's an unusual example of the Dorian mode. Perhaps I should not have used it. The reason I wanted this piece is because it may be familiar to you. We also sing the same melody to the text Jesu dulcis memoria. Jesu dulcis memoria, dans vera cordis gaudia. But I would think you'd know more from this text. O salutaris ostia. A common example, I think, of a Dorian piece that you may know would be the Kyrie of Mass 11. So if we take the book, we'll need to find a page. Page 30. There was a reason I didn't want to use this as my first example, and I will tell you why, is because it has a flat in it. You see the flat sign, it looks very much like the flat sign used in modern music, except that it's a bit stylized. You see, it has that round, nice round shape. You see the flat sign there, you see it again here and here, always at the same phrase in this particular piece. And you see it at the very beginning for the word Kyrie. It's repeated for the word eleison because a flat lasts only as long as the word, or as long as the bar line. But in any case, this piece should be familiar to you, I believe, those of you who know some chant. Here you can see clearly it begins on La. Again, A is I should call it A. A is an important note in the Dorian mode. But you see definitely the cadence is on D. Now we're counting here just to refresh your memories. This tells us this is the Do clef, yes? So this is C, C, B, A, G, F, E, D. So this is the final. So this tells this is the home bass note in the Dorian mode. So you'll see it here, you'll see it at all the eleison, and you'll see it, of course, at the very end of the piece. So I'll play the ending of I'll start here playing eleison. And that's the end. And you feel that it comes to conclusion. All right, that's the final of the mode. Now there is one more note in every mode which is very important. It's called the dominant. The dominant, as we have in modern music, for the authentic modes, is on the fifth from the final, or the home bass note. So D is the final, A is the dominant. So the dominant is another very strong note, as the word perhaps was meant to indicate. So we start off on the dominant, right? I'm playing it now an octave lower. The next phrase also begins on A, Christe. And again on A. And then the last phrase starts on the final. So final and dominant. We need to know those two terms for every mode that we will use. All right, I'm going to skip the plagal modes for the moment. We're going to go to the next authentic mode, which is mode number 3. It has a name commonly used called Phrygian. These are Greek names that the church adopted. I'm going to do in modern notation. In modern notation, I'm going to write mode number 3. Now you see our half steps, they will always be from E to F and B to C. Those are the two adjacent white notes on the piano keyboard. They are now from 1 to 2, 3, 4, and 5 to 6. So we start off with a half note. A half step. Listen to the sound of the Phrygian mode. Has a very different sound from the Dorian. All right. This is our Phrygian mode. We have some examples that would be familiar to you. If you were to look at the Panjalingua on page 125 of your Chants of the Church. This is a melody, again, that you would be familiar with if you know any chant. We sing it also to the text Tantum ergo occasionally. I'll play it for you just so you're familiar with the melody. We will hear this on Eucharistic processions. We hear it, as I said, for the Tantum ergo frequently. The mode is indicated, as you can see, it's third mode. You can see that the first note is in E. C, B, A, G, F, E. And you see that this phrase ends also on the re. Now, if you look here, you'll see that there's a very strong note on do. You see here all these, this is do, or I should call it C. Do you see how many notes are in C hovering around in the upper register? That's because C is the dominant in this mode. So, I'll play for you Panjalingua. Now it stays here for a while. All right. So that half step at the beginning gives it a very strong character. Again, I give it harmony to try to get a modality into your ear. You hear it better in context with the chords, perhaps, than hearing the melody by itself. If we look at the remainder of the piece, you'll see that it ends again on re, on D, on E, re, mi, right? So and we have no more going up to the dominant. Now, I want to show you a chant that, again, you will know. Here's another chant which is familiar to you. You'll see that it's in the third mode. You'll see that it ends, as it should, on E. But you will see that the dominating note, aside from this note, in fact, is actually more prominent in this piece even than the final or home bass note, is B. Now, as I said, ordinarily speaking, because of modern influences, the dominant was made C because people liked the sound of it. They found that when it was on B, that strong note B, they didn't like the sound of that because it creates the tritone, and I won't go to explain all of that, but they found it harsh to the ear. But this piece you will know, you will identify as the Kyrie, the very simple one. This is your B. This is your B. B. And then the big dip down to the final, to mi. I keep using the solfeggio names. It goes down to the note E. So this is an ancient chant, and this shows an example of the old tenor or dominant, which is B. Another word for dominant is tenor. I'm adding your vocabulary as we go along. I'm going to switch now to the Lydian mode. The Lydian mode is going to be from F to F. I'm not going to write all the notes now. I'm just going to do that. But I'll play it on the piano. Here's our F, and here's the scale. Here's the mode. This is the Lydian mode. It sounds wrong to our ears because we're accustomed to hearing that fourth degree accommodated with a flat. It'll become a major scale. Listen to it. I'll fix it. This we know. This is a major scale. But what makes the Lydian have its special character is that B natural, not B flat. Now again, the reason why the flat was often put in there, and they did put it in the Lydian mode often, is because they don't like the sound of that from the first note, which is your final. They don't like that sound. It's harsh to their ears. They like this sound better. And of course, we understand that because we're accustomed to that sound in our ears. As an example of one which is authentic without the flat, well, even the ones with the flat are authentic, I shouldn't say that, but one that without the accommodation of the flat, I want you to see the tantum ergo in your text on page 144. This is a very beautiful chant, authentic mode. You know that because it's one of the odd numbers. It's 5. What is characteristic of this, of course, is the F. So here's C. Now you see the clef is moved. We have C here. This is A. This is F. It begins on the home bass note, on the finals, we call it. And of course, it ends. This is stanza 2, so we don't really need the last part of the page. You see it, the verse 1 will end on also F. All right? So here's the note that I was pointing out to you. This is the B. And it's B natural. They didn't accommodate it in this chant. So it has a very exotic sound to our ears, I would say. Let me play for you tantum ergo. This is one of many tantum ergos, of course. Now, I'm going to play it with some chords which will again emphasize the unusual sound. I play it again. See, so this is our note. This is our B, and it is not flat. It has not been accommodated. In modern music, those of you who know the famous West Side Story piece, Maria, has that interval right at the beginning. So that was considered harsh to people at one time. In fact, it is even now. It's a difficult interval for us to sing. All right? So, I believe, do I have another example? We have one more we can do. Let's do the next authentic mode, which is the Mixolydian. Going to clear this. And the Mixolydian is going to go from G to G. And as you hear the Mixolydian mode, of course they can go up and they can come down. I'm just going one direction. You'll hear the major scale, and it'll sound familiar to your ears, except at the very end. I play now the Mixolydian mode. See, just at the very end, you want to hear a different note. That's what you want to hear because your ears are accustomed to the major scale. Now, I find an example for you in Ecce Panis Angelorum, which is on page 95. This is a part of a sequence for Corpus Christi, and it's sometimes used as a Eucharistic hymn all on its own. You see here that it is mode number 7. The editor has added it. You see the do here, and you're going to be looking for, there's your G. See, there's your final. I played a little bit of this for you. See, it has a little strange sound because where you expect at the end, I play it now, well, I'm going to accommodate it for our ears, just so you can get the strangeness to our, or the beauty, I should say, really, to our ears. But no. This note here is not accommodated according to our, adjusted to our sound that's in our heads from the major scale. So I've given you thus far today all of the authentic modes and an example of them to try to get them into your ear. Thanks for joining us today. Next time I'll be finishing the instruction on modes with the plagal modes. See you then. God bless you.